Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to the Circling Seattle Sports podcast. I am your host, as always, Charles Hammaker. This is episode 129 of the show itself, the second edition of the 2021 season follow-ups. I have my friend here, Race Porter, um, continued to make a name for himself in the 2021 season after, kind of a bizarre season last year. Geez, yeah, I just feared to think about how have you been, Race? I mean, what has it been for you since the season ended, and as we've started the year of 2022?
Yeah, thanks for having me always. It's been really nice. I've taken a lot of time off after the season, just kind of reset the mind, reset the body. I actually just started training this week. It's been the first week of kind of jumping back in. And, I'd say maybe as early as 2 weeks ago, I started kind of getting that itch to kind of get going again, it felt like I was away from, training and football for years when realistically it was a month and a half, which just kind of shows you what it is like being in it every day and kind of that grind and kind of what you get used to when you are kind of in the thick of the season. So yeah, I went down to Palm Springs with my dad, kind of reset, read some books, kind of, just get ready to level up for the next level and all that stuff. But I've just been chilling, hanging out, trying to get the Homs trends going and working on that stuff. So yeah, pretty simple life though, just simplifying everything and getting back to square one basics.
Yeah, and obviously you talk about Homs. I know that, football is one thing, but that will obviously be something we have to look at too, just considering also all the stuff that happened over 2021, and looking forward to what, even this year holds. But, looking into football I could completely be mispronouncing this. So if you know how to say it, please correct me. The Werfel Trophy preseason
Yeah.
watch list.
Mm-hmm.
2021 William V. Campbell Trophy semifinalist, 2021 All-State AFCA Good Hands team member, and 2021 All Pac-12 second team. With how the season went, obviously it's not how anybody wanted it to go. The team was still in several games. I mean, it's not like these were all blowouts, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did the locker room, find ways to keep battling week in and week out? Five of the team's eight losses were decided by a score, dealing with several injuries to guys. From your eyes, what did you see about this locker room that, was able to, deal with these things and, stay in these games?
Yeah, I just saw a lot of resiliency, especially later into the season, after the Oregon game when there was a lot of stuff that was kind of out of our control and, stuff that impacted us greatly, but that we had no kind of impact on, regarding the coaches and all that stuff. I just saw a bunch of guys rallying together and, we had a couple player meetings with just the whole team, the whole locker room. And it was kind of cool to just see guys saying, we're doing this for each other. At the end of the day, that's what this is all about. And just seeing people rally around each other, fighting for each other. I think that's what, college sports is all about, which was really cool to experience, whether or not we were, winning those games. Just kind of those weeks were really special for me to see guys make it about the team rather than, just kind of themselves and, oh, the ship is sinking. Let's jump, it was more just let's rally around each other and let's see what we can make the most, make the most of the rest of these games and do it for each other. Cause at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And that's kind of the brotherhood that everyone talks about with college football, especially. So yeah, it was tricky and a lot of stuff out of our control, but it was super cool to see everyone kind of come together regardless of the, the results and regardless of the fans thinking, it was a wasted season. I don't think it was wasted at all. I think in a lot of ways, I personally, and I'm sure a lot of other people would say the same on the team, learned more about kind of football and learned about ourselves more than any other year of playing, whether it was the Peach Bowl year or the Rose Bowl. This season, I think, really taught everyone about themselves on a personal level, which was really cool.
Yeah, because I mean, you talk about it, you see it in any sport. well, that's the thing too, is in these sports, I mean, you're not going to win every game. That's just how it is. Um, and yeah, I think losing will teach you a lot, because you win and usually it's like, okay, things went well. You can obviously correct things always, but losing, yeah, I think that shows you some things about people. And you talked about jumping ship, and that sort of thing. I know that some people transferred out this season. At the end of the day, that's their decision, but also, votes of confidence, and, particularly some of the wide receivers coming back next season. So it'll be really interesting to see how things go. I know that you really, spoke on team in that last part. But I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on your own performance this past season? I mean, ranked fourth in the nation by NCAA.com, 48.53 average, UW single season record, only 3 touchbacks on the season. Obviously, credit to the whole special teams unit there. 20-year punts down inside the 20 and the long of 73. I mean, how do you reflect on, your performance this past season?
Yeah, reflecting on it is nothing but joy for me. I had a really special season, beyond the stats and all that stuff, just kind of learning about myself and connecting to my higher power and understanding that this is kind of the path that I'm supposed to be on, and trusting that, and then being able to put my whole energy into that was really, really cool for me. And, just my penultimate season, my last season as a dog, and, having been there for so long, having learned from so many great players, not just kind of Tristan and Joel being good specialists that I looked up to, but I mean, from leaders and stuff like that were so good in 2016 and 2017, just being able to have a season where I get to put that all on display. And then to have the year that I did, it was kind of just like all of those things coming together, and it was really cool for me. And it was a blast. And I think, I was talking to the Athletic about it, and whether or not the season went the way that the team wanted or the fans wanted, it was a very cool experience for me, just with all the outside noise going on and all this stuff. And, playing punter, playing that position makes it a little easier to be able to kind of just focus on what you need to control and kind of lock in on that. But that just kind of amplified my experience and kind of really honed in that concept of control what you can control. And week in, week out, as long as you're getting better every day and you're working towards that game day on Saturday, making sure that's going to be your best performance of the week, that's what it's all about. And so this season, with everything that happened, just kind of accentuated that for me, and allowed me to really lock in and focus on what my mission was, and accomplishing that mission. So yeah, it was nothing but special, and I wouldn't trade it for 13 wins in a Rose Bowl victory, just because of all that I learned and all that I think kind of my teammates learned from all the stuff that went down.
And, I'm sure you saw some of it, but the UW, I don't know, so the Dog Pack Twitter itself, or it was another one, but kind of rooting week by week, whether, no matter how the game was going, it was like, oh, Race was doing this, so he's kind of the team. It was cool seeing that, obviously speaking with you last season, and knowing it through a day and all that, to see, I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. There's one photo in particular that was posted on Twitter. It was college football without context, and it was a photo of you on the sideline with a pair of golden boxing gloves around your neck. Can you give context to that? Because I mean, it's a cool photo, but is it like, obviously a few years ago with Miami, there was a turnover chain? Is it something like that? I'm interested to hear about that.
Yeah. So same kind of concept as the turnover chain. Kind of going into that week, that was the Oregon week.
Yep.
And Coach Lake kind of pounded in this concept of it being a heavyweight bout, a heavyweight matchup. And that's kind of what the Pac-12 is all about, is winning you play all the games to win, but it's really those heavyweight matchups that are so critical to win. And so those gloves were meant to represent anytime someone threw a knockout punch, or, a game-changing play, whatever it may be, interception, however, that was introduced, you would get to wear those gloves. And who would have thought that the punter would be wearing them first few times. But, speaking back to, being a punter and just kind of what comes with that position, you don't think you can really impact the game. You can't make game-changing plays. And so to be able to do that, I think all season was a huge goal of mine, and kind of, bring light to that, my position on the whole, and just be able to show that, as corny as the phrase is, punters are people too. But yeah, punters, specialists, we really can impact the game, at the highest levels. And I think so. Back to the gloves. So that was kind of fun for me to be able to throw those gloves on. And unfortunately, that was the only week we did that, but I was happy to get to try them on. So yeah, that's the story behind those.
I think you speak on it. I think anybody who really watches the game of football knows that special teams, just like offense and defense, play such a big role. And I do want to talk about Coach Lake, because obviously with this team, Coach Lake was a major headline, but also to first stop off with the NIL. I'm sure you know about Nick Saban, who doesn't. Stated a little bit ago, I think it was a few weeks, that there should be some strict guidelines in place so that there are no monopolies regarding the NIL. I just kind of want your thoughts on the NIL as a whole. And I mean, I know that there was somewhat of a doom and gloom thought, not necessarily with what Saban said, but just kind of some doom and gloom response to the NIL, that it was going to change a lot. And really, at least from how I saw it, it didn't seem like there was too much of a change. It just seemed like some athletes were able to get a little help financially here and there. But, as someone who's actually, has been in the college system, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that as a whole.
Yeah. I think with everything, there's pros and cons. And I think the whole NIL stuff provided some really, really cool, and will provide some really, really cool opportunities for a lot of different kids and a lot of different student athletes. So in no way am I going to say that it's, all negative and all bad, but, just like you said, from my own experience and kind of hearing, because one of the things Coach Pete liked to do a lot, and Coach Lake did it a little bit, it was a little hindered by COVID, but was to bring a lot of the guys that played for our program back that are now in the pros and kind of speak on their experience. And one of the things that, really hammered home for me, that a lot of the guys were talking about, is just how special college football is because of the brotherhood, and because of playing for each other and playing for your school and your city and all of that, and just how special that experience is. And in contrast to at the professional level, it's much more of a business. Money, all of that stuff, the way the organizations are set up, etc. And so I think the biggest problem that NIL kind of poses for me is just diminishing that gap between what college football represents and what professional, football and sports in general represents. So, moving forward, it'll be interesting. And I think Saban has as good of a viewpoint on that stuff as anyone, being at the top of college football for the most part. So yeah, it'll be interesting. And I think I had a wonderful experience with NIL this year, being on the All-State AFCA Good Works team. There was compensation for that through NIL. But it will be cool for me to see schools and kind of the NCAA move towards, rewarding players with NIL opportunities based on things that deserve a reward, if you know what I mean. So we're not just throwing money at kids to come to our school. We're not, giving everyone cars just because, hey, come to Texas A&M, you'll get a free car. It's, like the All-State example, we're rewarding people that are already doing good things and modeling their platform in the right way. And, like everything, there's going to be push and pull. And so I just think it's a really cool opportunity. It's, it provides a lot of things that in the past, other people, kids wouldn't have had the opportunity to do certain things. And NIL makes that happen and makes that possible. But like I said, as long as we're doing it in a healthy way and we're doing it for the right reasons, I think that's kind of the key factor when it comes to that stuff.
No, that makes total sense. Like you said, not just throwing it like at recruits, just making sure that money is actually going to the right place for the right reason. I know you talked about, I like how you talked about, bringing guys in, from the pros and having them talk about their experiences. I know that Coach DeBoer has talked about wanting to make UW a home for alum so that they can come back and make that a thing, obviously, when it's safe and such. And we'll talk about him in a second, but, Coach Lake, obviously as a player in the locker room, and I talked to Mish Powell just last week, and his perspective, obviously, as someone who's in that locker room as well. But how do you remember Coach Lake and his time at UW, not only as, the head coach?
Yeah, I have absolutely nothing but great things to say about Coach Lake. I would take a bullet for Coach Lake, the way that he coached us and kind of the leader that he was for us. And for me personally, I think I resonated with him so well. And he's all about competing and elevating your game to the highest level. And, having that energy leading you at all times really brings the best out of you and forces you to be great. And I think that's all you can ask for from a coach, right? At this level, you just want someone that's going to bring the best out of you. And just kind of an example that speaks to Coach Lake, 2018, I think it was the year we went to the Rose Bowl. That's 2018, I believe. Yeah. 2017, 2018 season. Or 2018, 29. Anyways. First game of the season that year, we were playing Eastern and we were blowing them out. And Joel Whitford was the starting punter. Shout out to Joel. He's killing it for Hamilton Tiger Cats right now, which is awesome to see. He was a starting punter. So they only brought me in for certain situations, pin punts, where we're going to throw it on the ground and get the ball. And so, I barely did anything all week, and I didn't have I was the holder. I didn't have a huge impact when it came to punting. And so I got to come in for a punt near the very end of the game against Eastern. And I hit a perfect punt, ended up on the 1 yard line. And in the TV broadcast, if you go back and look, the first person to come up and give me a high five is Coach Lake. I mean, he's as fired up as anyone could be. He's a DB coach. He has nothing to do with punting, nothing to do with me as, on the day-to-day at the facility. I never saw him. And he'd be the first to come celebrate with you after a big play on the sideline. And I think that speaks so much to him, just kind of his character and the type of person that he is when it comes to kind of coaching on the football field. And, everyone saw the stuff that happened at Oregon, and, it's too bad that that's how everything shook out. And that's kind of how his legacy ended at UW. But, that's football. And, I might sound old school and old fashioned, and I love Rocket Fluvi to death, as O'Day brotherhood. So I'd be the first to say, that wasn't all right, but huge, like I said, heavyweight bout, huge rivalry game. Like, people don't understand the emotions that kind of come with that. And kind of there were already two unsportsmanlike penalties, which, we spent all week talking about little things like that. 15 yards like that are what win and lose those games. And so, people got to understand the emotions that are wrapped up and kind of the heightened sense of kind of importance on stuff like that we go through the whole week. So, I'm not excusing anything or, however people want to look at that. But, just kind of having a perspective on, every different kind of factor that goes into that. And then B, all the amazing things that he'd done for our program before he was a head coach and before, which is a whole different animal. I mean, being ahead, as we saw with Coach Pete, he did a miraculous job with our program. And near the end of it was like, 6, 7, 8 years, he was just kind of tuckered out from the level that UW kind of represents and just all the outside noise that is always coming in. And so, Coach Lake turned UW into DBU. And I don't think anyone would disagree that he was the person that kind of spearheaded that. And so, yeah, Coach Lake has a place in my heart. I think he'll be successful wherever he ends up next, no doubt, just because of the energy that he brings and kind of the way that he looks at the game and the way he looks at competing. And yeah, it was sad for kind of how it ended, but I love Coach Lake to death, and I would, like I said, I'd take a bullet for him when it came to kind of him being my coach. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember seeing the headline that Peterson was hanging him up, and then the news shortly came after. I think it shortly came after that game against Boise State in the Vegas Bowl that it would be Lake, if I'm correct.
Mm-hmm.
And at least between me and my dad, I was like, hey, that makes sense, right? A guy that has, like you were saying, has had a big impact on the university. I mean, you just got to look at the DBs through the years and let it speak for itself, right?
Yep.
I think anybody, as I think the fan base as a whole kind of agreed, hey, this is a good hire, and it didn't shake out, and that's fine. Like you said, that's how football is. But that's the thing to always kind of note for me, as someone who has to pay attention to all these sports, is whenever a coach has to step down or something like that happens, I always want to look at the player reaction, right? Because if oh, the players kind of agree, then it's like, okay, maybe there's justification to this. If it's a different story, then that it's a different situation. So I wanted to see that as well, to see your perspective. Obviously Mish, playing DB, and as Coach Lake was a head coach, not as much DB, but just to get both of those perspectives, something that I wanted to look at. And then looking at DeBoer here, I know that you won't play for him, but have you been able to sort of see, what's going on with that? Maybe it's just through what's been going out through the media, or just do you have any input on DeBoer and the current staff that he's bringing in?
Not yet. I've been going in and kicking still at the facility, down on the field. So I've been spending time down there, and I went last week. I went up into the top offices to try to meet him and just kind of say, hey, you got my support. I'm excited. If you got any questions regarding, the specialists or special teams, I'll be around, and feel free to kind of pick my brain. But he was out of the office, so he wasn't there. The only person I met was the strength coach, who seems awesome. And I've heard the workouts are going great. They're, high intensity, high energy, which is good. And it's always nice to have kind of a switch up when, you hit a new phase in terms of, like, with the coaching and all that stuff. And even just like right now, for all the guys to have something to kind of just be able to throw themselves all the way back into, and get back into that schedule, and start working towards, a national championship next year, whatever their goals are, maybe. It's good to start that and get that going. So I'm excited for that. And I don't know too much about the coaching staff or anything like that. No one's really reached out to me, but yeah, I'm intrigued to kind of meet a handful of those guys, special teams coordinator, always, all that stuff. But hopefully I'll be able to stop by the next few weeks and meet all those people.
With the knowledge that you've got of this program in recent years, I think it would be a little bit valuable for them to take a peek. But what was your reaction to winning the school's Thai Sports Council Community Service Award? And can you just talk a little bit about, obviously with, forgive me, it's Allstate, correct? Yeah, it's Allstate. Just talk about community service, because obviously this is something that, with Homs, since through that a little bit, has been around, at least that I've been aware of, right? What was your reaction to that award, and as well as Allstate, just how that's all played out?
Yeah, I think it goes all the way back to 2016, kind of my first introduction to Coach Pete and kind of the way program with the Built for Life stuff. Football was our main focus when we showed up at the facility, but the second you leave, the majority of everything else is so much more than just football. And he kind of just kept reiterating that, beating that into us. And so for me personally, to kind of take that and run with that and be able to see, yes, we have this platform. Yes, we can, have this heightened podium to kind of speak on these issues, to be able to acknowledge that and then take that and do good with it, was something that was I'm grateful for the ability to be able to do that, the platform that I had being a football player at UW. And the cool thing about the Tyee Award and the All-State team is it's just me doing good, being recognized and kind of thrown out into the world so that it can continue to have an impact. So, it's not like you're doing it for any other reason than, clothes, Homs, all that stuff is what I love to do. And being able to structure my business and all that stuff in a way that also can change lives and kind of shed light on mental health and kind of attack that stigma of, men specifically and football players, just kind of what I represent, who are traditionally not necessarily expressive of their emotions and kind of well versed when it comes to mental health and dealing with that stuff. It just helps, helps the more people out, the more that the word gets out and the more that, it's recognized and all that stuff. And so I don't view any of those awards as anything other than just kind of, if I can impact people in a positive way, then that energy is going to be reciprocated from my higher power, however people want to look at it. But if I can change the world and I'm doing it, then it's just going to keep snowballing and kind of keep it rolling, like I like to say. And so, all that stuff I'm so grateful for. And I was honored for the Tyee. That's, community service is always something that, I'm proud to represent. And, if I can help one person a day, then mission accomplished. And so all that stuff just kind of helped me keep doing that. So
whether it may be, something like that with that award, or obviously on the field stuff might come into play, what really do you look back on at your time at Washington as like defining moments? Because obviously no one moment can define your career, but if I had to like have you pick some of the like a best of kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
What sticks out to you, from your time, whether it's with the team or just with the university as a whole?
Yeah. I think a huge pivotal point. I mean, first and foremost, it was kind of honing in on that holder spot, which, you might ask about the Husky punter. He hasn't, oh yeah, he had a great senior season, all that stuff. I'd been holding for 4 years, and I took a huge pride in that, and trying to be the best holder in the country. Sounds kind of funny, but there was a long time in my career where that was the only thing I had, and it was my baby. And so I think that was the first, being able to impact the team, whether,
Yep.
arguably the smallest scale possible, being the holder. No one notices it. You don't want anyone noticing you because it means you're doing your job right. That was kind of my first kind of coming in as a walk-on, having no plan on ever playing, just being glad to, suit up on game days and look like I'm one of the guys. When I got that holding spot, it was really special for me because I felt like I was officially a part of the team and I was impacting the team. So that was the first thing I can think of, and I'm so proud of, all the holds I did. As funny as that sounds, that's like, I take pride in that, and I'll go to bat for myself. All the specialists will too. I think I'm the best holder in the country. I think it's a huge bonus when it comes to playing at the next level, having a guy that you can trust and you're going to get the ball down, laces out. It's a huge, huge factor when it comes down to last minute kicks, all that stuff. So that was huge. And then, just with punting and all that stuff, I was really frustrated because I wasn't getting much better. And, my sophomore, junior year, I just wasn't seeing the results I wanted to see. And that was kind of carrying into my life as a whole, and school was kind of interesting. And so that was all kind of an interesting time, a difficult time for me. My mental health was not very good. And that's kind of what led to the start of Homs. And, it's funny, like Coach Pete said, built for life, all that stuff, just everything has to do with everything. And I was going through this tough time, and it was funny because kind of the creation of my clothing brand, the expression of that, all that did was help me as a football player. It helped me, understand a new perspective on, if football's not going well, I don't let it completely consume me. I don't let it, represent everything about me as a person that I'm not playing football well. it kind of opened me up to that new perspective that, hey, there is more to you than just this kind of football thing, and don't let that dictate everything. And so that was huge. And on top of it being, maybe arguably my biggest passion in life, the clothing thing, and discovering that is huge. But just kind of the impact that had on me as a player more than anything, just understanding it's not the end of the world if, I don't hit a perfect punt. Because I've got other stuff going on. I think that was huge for me. And then just this season, this season was really special. My grandpa passed away last year, and he was probably my biggest fan, and he was the biggest Husky fan I'd ever known. And so to kind of go into this season, dedicating my season to him, and I felt him, whether it was Tuesday practice over on East or in the middle of the Oregon game, I could feel him down at the stadium all the time, and I could feel his energy. And I know he was there at watching. I don't know if it was a spirit. I don't know. That's not a question I need to answer to. I could just feel him, and that was really special for me. So yeah, if there were three, I'd say those are my three highlights from being a Husky.
So, with that being said, it might be something that's known already. I don't know. It's why I'm asking. Obviously I'm sure Hams is continuing. I'm sure that's not something that's gonna stop anytime soon, but what's next for you, Race? What are we looking at, or is it still something that you might need time to figure out? You might need to kind of sit back and think about things.
Yeah, I'm going full throttle, straight for the NFL. That's the plan. That's the goal. Reflecting after the season, sitting down with myself, is this something I want to pursue? Is this something, because it's arguably one of the hardest professions to get into. It's, if you're thinking strictly from a job perspective, if I was going to go try to, get a job with Nike, I could probably get it pretty easy. Low level, all that stuff. When you're thinking about the NFL, it's NFL or nothing. That's my mindset. And so I sat down, I just figured out, is this really something I want to do? And I had to really backtrack to when I was a little kid. And, I've always loved competition. I've always loved sports. I've loved kind of pushing myself and seeing what I'm capable of. And I think this represents the ultimate opportunity, the ultimate challenge when it comes to that. So I'm training my ass off to hopefully do that. Specifically, my goals training wise are to get invited to the combine. Even though that's out of my control, I hope I did enough this season to be able to get that invitation. And I want to set the 40-yard dash record for a punter. Going back
that up now.
Me and Miles being best friends, I think that'd be the ultimate kind of trash talking, is being able to say I ran a fast 40 at the combine. So that's my goal. That's, thinking of how I could get picked up by a team or whatever it may be, being able to show them that I represent something, different than all the other guys that are in my class, and showing that I have something else. And so I feel like showing that I'm an athlete will be the best way to do that.
So from what I'm gathering, I don't know if this is an official, but when I put that in, the fastest I get for a punter was 4.69. So if you need a number, hey man, I'll power to you. I believe in you.
Yeah.
So now obviously with Hams, we switch over here. I know last time we spoke, I asked you about if you had a dream collab, and obviously I'm sure from your perspective, there's a lot going on. So there might not be one you want to narrow yourself down to, right? Since that time, have you thought of a different collab you'd want to have, or is it simply, you've got projects you're working on and you might not be thinking about that kind of thing?
Yeah. Dream collab is always kind of an interesting, it's very fluid, just because I think as a designer, one of the things that makes me successful is that I'm constantly changing and constantly expressing myself in new ways. And that's kind of represented through the clothing. And with any brand, you need to be moving with the times, or else brands will start to pass you up, and kind of like anything, you need to kind of stay fluid. And so right now, I don't know, Nike is always comes to mind. It's just is the brand that made me fall in love with clothes for the most part, and shoes and all that stuff. I actually, realistically, a company that I'm potentially going to be collaborating with is a company called Ably, Ably. I don't know if you've heard of it. They do really, it's kind of like workout shirts, workout material stuff. They've got some lifestyle stuff as well. And the cool thing about them is all of it's waterproof. So I feel like that is very on point with being in Seattle and being a brand from Seattle, being able to have a normal t-shirt that you can wear out and know that it's waterproof in case it rains. Not that it ever rains in Seattle. So that's something that is a possibility. I think we're starting to work the early stuff with that. As you know, any type of collaboration, it takes time. Two businesses coming together, kind of takes some time to line up schedule wise and kind of product wise. And there's so much that goes into it, but I'm open to collabs all the time, and it's fun. And it's at the very least, if it doesn't work out or we don't follow through on it, it's great to meet other businesses and kind of learn how other people operate and all that stuff. So yeah, no, dream collab, always changing, always evolving, and yeah, that'd be fun.
So we look back at 2021. I believe we spoke relatively early in the year, but looking at it full circle, right? Looking at it like it encapsulate the year. There's a lot going on. I mean, officially being trademarked, a bunch of different design. I mean, I could go down the list. Ham's Women's Season 1, working with Dozer.
Yep.
The winter collection, the stealth pack. How did it look behind the scenes? As somebody who follows the social media, has products when I can get them. What does it look like from your perspective? Because as you talk about being a designer and working with companies, taking time, for you and Isaac, I believe.
Isaac, yes.
Yep. How does that look for you? Particularly last year, how does that look for you? Even still dealing with the pandemic and perhaps like distribution issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm glad you mentioned Isaac. That was going to be the first place I went. Being still a student athlete, still, this season being kind of what I needed to pour all my energy into to do what I wanted to do. It wasn't something I could kind of say, oh yeah, I'm still kind of going to practice and then slinging 50 sweaters right afterwards. I needed to really pour my energy into football this year. And so, like I mentioned earlier, connecting with my higher power, I think, my higher power brought Isaac into the equation so that we could continue Hams and keep it rolling, because as much as I love kind of doing all that stuff, I had to focus on football this year. Mm-hmm. And Hams would have started to kind of go down had Isaac not been around. And so he was a huge part, and it was super fun for me to kind of show him the ropes. And it was just as much of a learning experience for me, kind of teaching him how to operate Hams. And I always tell him, everything goes according to plan. You're going to be running Hams, and I'll be kind of overseeing it. I'll be, designing a lot of stuff, but that's what drives him. Is he loves the business side of things. He loves kind of marketing. He loves accounting, all that stuff that, doesn't really get me going. And fortunately is the important stuff when it comes to a business. Good designs and cool products can only take you so far if you don't know how to kind of really own in on the business side of it. So it was really cool. A lot of those collections, stealth collection, winter collection, he was doing 99% of the work, which I think is, says a lot about him, being able to be so young and be so early in the process of understanding how it works and just picking it up like that and being able to produce products, ship products, design products. It's been a blast for me to kind of get to usher him through the process. So yeah, behind the scenes, it was a lot of that stuff, us strengthening our relationship, kind of learning more about each other and kind of working through that and just being able to me design stuff and then him kind of take the rest of it and just work on it. And that's what he loves doing. And so we were able to kind of keep it rolling. And I think, this year just is another great year of Hom stuff out of the way. And, our goal is to always keep fresh products coming in and working on our manufacturing side of getting that great quality that people never want to take off. But it was a blast. And I think we're going to continue to try to do what this year represented, all these different kind of things. And whether it's we're doing a women's line, we're just launching into that, and we're going to find the best fit and what kind of emphasizes and accentuates the female figure the best way, and then we're going right back to kind of baggy winter collection, just kind of comfy, warm stuff. And, I think moving forward, we're really going to get into that manufacturing side of things and trying to create products that are unique to Homs, in that you can't go to a store and find anything like it. And that's kind of where we're headed and what I've been emphasizing with him, at least. But yeah, 2021 was magical in every way for Homs. And, unfortunately, with all the COVID stuff, we didn't get to do any, as many pop-ups as we would have liked. And kind of my favorite thing, I think Isaac is learning how to love it, is interacting with people over the clothes, because if you go on the website and you kind of read about our story and end up buying a product, you can learn about kind of what it means, but it's nothing compared to us, having a face-to-face conversation with a product right next to us, getting to explain the message, just connecting with the person on a friendly level. That's kind of what it's all about. And I think that's why Homs did so well at the start, is because it was kind of that real genuine conversation that then just translates into the clothing. So yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. I mean, at least from somebody, that's on the outside that sees all the social media and all the promotion about it, I can tell you, and I have to admit, I'm not a super big fashion guy. Sports is my lane. That's how it is. And I mean, Homs fits with it, whether it's, the UW phases, the O'Day one. I mean, you've seen it. I've tagged in it all the time, whether it's in the press box or whatever. I try to, make them line up with whatever team. I'm relatively simple, but at least in noticing, the promotion side of it, it seems really professional. Like if I were to compare it, at least in my eyes, I wouldn't tell a difference, but also I'm not super big into fashion. I'll tell you that. But at least for me, it all looks really well done. And I ask about Isaac because I remember, obviously he's been tagged in some stuff, and it's been known that he's part of it. But also there was one photo in particular where there's a bunch of the orders all stacked up against the wall. And Isaac's like right next to him. It's like, geez, man, it's a lot of orders going out. Yeah. But I know you touched on, not having products that are like similar to what you can find in the store. Has the idea of having, you talk up the pop-ups as well, has the idea of having some sort of a permanent location or having products sold anywhere in Seattle ever, maybe in Seattle, maybe somewhere else, but starting in Seattle, is that something that's ever come up, or is it not necessarily something in the cards?
Yeah. And then hold on, one more thing that I thought about, right as you said, everything looks professional. I got to shout out Nabil, our photographer. He's been Hom's house photographer, if you will, for a while now. And we've been working to create that aesthetic, at least on the Instagram page, of kind of how we want the clothes to look, the filters we want to use, all that stuff. And he's been huge in that. And he's wonderful to work with. He gets stuff done like this. And, me and Isaac are both like that. We're very impatient, which I think can be a good thing sometimes if you know how to control it. So shout out to Nabil. And then, yes, Millie Seattle, which is a store on Queen Anne. We have sold a handful of products in their store. Catherine Hyde, I went to St. Anne's with her. Her little brother Joe was in my class. Shout out to them. Catherine is in the store. She mans it. She's the only worker there, I believe. And she spent some time in New York and was very into fashion. So she kind of learned New York fashion and then wanted to bring it back to Seattle, basically with a store. So she's in charge of kind of buying all the stuff and kind of the vibes in the store. And it's amazing stuff. It's like the coolest, it's mostly women's stuff, unfortunately for me, or it'd be the only place that I shopped. Can't find a whole lot of stuff that fits me in there, but it's like a really cool vibe. And we hadn't sold anything in stores. It's not that we were, opposed to it or not looking to do it. It just, the right opportunity hadn't come up. And then finally, a couple different things led to this kind of us talking and us getting some stuff in there. And we're actually going to do a limited edition hoodie that's only sold in their store, Millie, on Valentine's Day. So that'll be cool. I think, Tom's is predicated on making a special product, right? A one-of-one feeling to your hoodie. And so when we do work with companies or, stores for like Millie, it's almost always going to be something exclusively sold there, much like the pop-ups we do where we only sell the designs and the products at that pop-up there. It's not going to be on the website afterwards. It's not. So you feel there's this extra kind of incentive to go purchase it there and kind of check out the store. So that's something we're going to be doing, and that'll be fun because, we'll have to explore, more women's products. We've traditionally done a lot of unisex stuff, which I think is something we're going to continue to do when it comes to Homs on our website. But, being able to, like I said, be fluid with whatever comes up and whatever we're doing, that'll represent a fun challenge and an exciting kind of design process if we're going to continue that relationship with Millie, which I think we absolutely will. And then a store called Zebra Club, I think, which is downtown. They've shown some interest in maybe carrying some Homs products, and I'm working with my agent right now on setting up a potential deal with Nordstrom, which would be really, really cool. Growing up, that was always my dream. I think that is like number one when it comes to fashion in Seattle, at least. I think of Nordstrom. I think of the family being from Seattle and all that stuff. So I think that's kind of like the pie in the sky. And that, like I said, poses a whole lot of new challenges in that realm as well, being able to put a product in a department store that has to be a much larger quantity. It can't just be, traditional limited edition runs like we do, because that's just not how their buying process works. And so just being able to kind of be exposed to all those opportunities and learning how the industry works has been a blast for me. But yeah, right now we've got some stuff in Millie, and that limited edition Valentine's drop will be fun. But, moving forward, always open for, any collaborations and all that stuff. So maybe a bunch more stores in 2022.
Well, I think you've kind of set up the answer kind of answered it already. I was going to see if you were going to tease anything for this upcoming year, but it seems like you've already done that. But no, it's really cool to, reflect on it, because I remember last year speaking to you, just to see everything, whether it was Twitter going, crazy over you, to see all the product. And really, I mean, I'm not just here to sit here and promote things. Like I've got 3 of the hoodies. I've got something in this. I've got the big heart puffer. I love those. It's huge. It's well-made stuff. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you. For being a simple guy, it's well-made stuff. So yeah, with that being said, I hope to be able to follow up with you next season, after, I can't tell you where it's going to be, but, just, continuing to follow that path, because it seems like, Race, you're just following that path and it's taking you in the right place. So I trust in that ability of yours. I always link socials in the description. I've always put Homs in the description as well. Is there anything that you want to put out there into the world as we wrap up?
Yeah, I would just like to advocate for you, Charles, and how amazing you are. And the Kraken hoodie that I received for Christmas, I believe, was a wonderful, it was like the perfect gift. And people always talk about how hard it is to give me gifts, being, a clothes guy. And so clothes are And I opened that, and funny story, UW gave me it's the same model Adidas sweatshirt. And I had just told my dad like the day before, because he had stolen it. I said, you stole my favorite UW hoodie that I ever got. And then sure enough, I got the Kraken one. So it was like the best. And, I think how passionate you are about sports, it shows through your shows and all that stuff. And every time I get the opportunity, I love it. And, I think it shows how hard you are as a worker, and just kind of how well-versed you are to be able to kind of jump through all the different sports and all that stuff. And so honored as always. And I really appreciate the mindset you bring to it.
Well, and I appreciate that. I'm one of those guys who it's hard to hear that kind of stuff, because I don't know, it's just what I do. I just try to work at it. But in every press box, whether it's the Sounders or the Rain or the Kraken, I try to work with it. I've got, it's the masks or the hoodies. It's always there, and then my first Kraken game, and I've got my first press badge from that game.
Okay.
I've got the photo of me. I had the O'Day one on, so it's just, I always mix them in there. I always try to show love, and you've taken care of me, so it's the least I could do, really. But no, really, I mean that. I'm excited to see the path that you continue on. It's to go back to what you said. If you can continue to, do good things, just to keep it rolling, I think that's perfect. So, with that being said, Race, again, thank you for your time, and hope to see you maybe next year around this time, or whatever, schedule gives way to.
Yeah, awesome.